Deprive. It was so awesome. I had a horrible, horrible week. A blessing with my niece here, but a horrible week. And oh my gosh, it totally changed everything the whole day. It was so cool. God is so good. Oh man, thank you, Sean.
So here's the good news. Think about this. How many of you would absolutely think the world is a great day when you can go around and talk to people about being deprived?
It was so cool.
That's a misfit and a half right there. Hey, Tanya, good morning. Well, today probably isn't going to be any easier, but I think it'll be as much fun. Today is about self-care. Let me know if you all can see that. Self-care. We all suck at this. Well, geez, okay, Mr. Motivation, thanks for bringing me here and bringing me down. We all do. We all suck at it. And here's the biggest thing about being an addict. As soon as we realize we are one, we can do something about it. Right? If my mother was an alcoholic, my oldest brother an alcoholic, for years they had it under control and this, that, and the other, and I can deal with this and blah, 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 and life is blah, 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 all this stuff, only to come down to the realization everybody's got to hit bottom. So when we're healthy, right, I would consider us all healthy, although we're all nuts in our head. I would consider us all normal, although we're all misfits, and we keep trying to, we all carry how many of you have seen the invisibility cloak in Harry Potter? We all carry around our own invisibility cloak. Don't you look at me. On the outside of the invisibility cloak is what everybody thinks we should be. And we adapt and adopt to that. Are we really doing what's best for us? Hell, I'm even going to ask, how many of us feel we do some things for other people that are at our own sacrifice? Now, this doesn't mean to run off and become, King Henry VIII and go, blah, 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 I'm in charge of everything, do everything for me, blah, 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 I'll never do another thing. No, we get a lot of joy out of doing things with and for other people, but we're all addicted to it being addicted. So we're going to have a conversation about that. What is self-care? Here's the definitions of self-care. The practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's own health. Here's my question for you. The action to preserve or improve. Beamish, I love you, but I'm not going to throw the ball right now. The key is to preserve. What is it in our life that we're preserving? What are you preserving right now? What part of you are you preserving? See, when we hold on to our old self, when we hold on to the person who we believe we are, to the people who people think we are, I still go back to the time Tracy showed up with the shirt on backwards and her hair in pigtails. Y'all remember that? Now, I promise you, you may not have known what she has worn every day since or every day previous, but we all remember what she looks like on that day. Because it was this, she broke the way she was supposed to show up. So what are we improving in our self-care? We all know we could all go take a half-hour walk. That'd be great. We all know that we probably need to eat a little better, hydrate a little bit more. 90% of us are 5% dehydrated. A 2% loss in dehydration is a 5% loss in short-term memory. So if you can't remember shit, drink more water. And if that doesn't help, then start drinking the heavy stuff and get over it. Here's the second definition I found. The practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness in particular, I couldn't figure out that sentence. I'm going, in particular during periods of stress. That should hit you like a ton of bricks. What state, think about this for just a second, what state do we go into when we're in stress? do we go into a new, hey, I'm going to be able to handle this. Let's try this on for size. Or do we go into a state of stress and we go, oh crap, I've been here before. I ain't got time to try to look at this a different way. Let me get into it the way I used to get into it. And we go back to our old patterns. How many of us have ever been in an argument, we act the same way? Network marketing, you're still in that thing? How many of us have an old belief that pops up? Oh my God, you were setting goals like 5 years ago. You haven't reached them? I don't want to go outside. That's mean. Self-care. I did a Google search on self-care. You're going to be surprised. There's the last institution to talk about self-care will be the one that I'll show you here in just a second. But 2.6 billion, I really had to do the numbers because I went 100,000 million. What is that? 100 million? Billion? When you think of self-care, tell me the institution you would think of when you think of self-care. If you were to Google it, who would you be looking for information from? Who do you think would have put themselves at the top of Google to teach you and tell you about self-care, to become a resource for self-care? Forbes magazine. Isn't that the craziest? But it's also, you want to know the reason why? Is because what is every employer trying to figure out? How to keep their people, how to save one more employee, how to keep one more person from doing something of harm to themselves, how to keep one more person from whatever it is, the negative side. So Forbes, this is what popped up. I put best ways to help self-care, and Forbes magazine article from 2017 popped up. This is what it says: self-care is crucial for our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. You shouldn't neglect self-care, and here's why. I mean, isn't there another billion-dollar industry for mental well-being? Isn't there another multi-billion-dollar industry for physical self-care? I mean, how powerful is just that sentence to think of the billions of dollars that what do you call it? Move from one to another, not transpire. That in transactions every day in these industries. So here's here's what it started off the article with. What do you neglect in self-care? Forbes in this magazine, in 5 bullets before they got to the 10 things. Know your worth. My daddy said, I told you, my dad was amazing. I can say that now, and I said it probably then as well, but hindsight's always much better than foresight. My daddy used to buy businesses. I don't know if I all told you all this. My dad used to buy businesses, and he would have me meet him there for lunch. Usually there were restaurants or some kind of a bar or something outside of our traditional businesses. I was already running 7 family businesses. And he would buy these things and he'd say, meet me here for lunch. And I started to get wary about meeting my dad for lunch. He'd say, what would you do to this place? And so that was kind of my college education. I'd go, well, you need to do this, this, this. You can see that the POS, the point of sale system is and he'd slide the keys across the table. He goes, here you go. You own it tonight. I go, what do you mean tonight? He goes, well, you got 60 days to turn it around. And that's how my dad, he goes, oh, by the way, I bought it with your money. See, my dad was smart. He incentivized me. But that's how I ran businesses. My dad would buy them, slide me the keys, and I'd have 60 days to turn them around. Real world. Because he told me when I was going to go to college, he said, you can go to college for the next 4 years, or you can spend the next 4 years in business in our offices in Florida. Now, I was running our businesses in Florida and as well as in the Caribbean, but when I would come home from the Caribbean, that's when he would buy these businesses, which he would also add onto my plate. Anyways, know your worth. My dad said this. That was a long story to get to this statement. I used to get frustrated out in the front of the house in restaurant world. That's when you're out with the customers. So I'd go in the back of the house, the kitchen, and I'd wash dishes just to get away. How many of us have done just menial stuff to get away? My daddy said to me one time, he came through the kitchen, he goes, listen, just clock in and clock out. I go, for what? He goes, when you're doing dishwasher work, you're getting paid $5 an hour. I don't care what job you do, but you will get paid for what it is you do. Know your worth. Are you worth more than $5 an hour? Are you worth more than $15 an hour? Honestly, if you had to, for the rest of your life, decide what you're going to be paid for an hourly wage, because you are going to trade time for money, what do you think would be worth it? $100 an hour, $200 an hour, $500 an hour? What would be your ideal, what would be your, not your dream income? I mean, I'm not saying dream about it, but what would be you think you're worth it? Is it $200,000 a year? Then divide that back hourly and ask yourself, in the last hour, did I do that? Did I sharpen my saw? Did I invest in myself? A healthy work-life balance. Oh my God, there's another billion-dollar industry. Stress management, there's another billion-dollar industry. Start living, this is in Forbes. Start living, stop existing in better physical health. Now, why would a publication as big as Forbes put that out? I remember being on stage one time with a friend, and he gave a verse from the Bible, and it's still stuck with me. He gave a story from the Bible. Anybody know the story about the fig tree? Now, trust me, I can't recite verse and Bible and phrase and chapter and all of that stuff, but I remember this. He said, this is his version, I'm repeating it. It's the only time Jesus got mad is when the fig tree didn't produce figs. What the hell are you doing if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing? Why would Forbes do this? Why would it remind us? And another phrase, it said, I set before you life and death. Anybody know what the next phrase is? Choose life. Why would we have to be reminded of the basic? Choose life. I set before you life and death. Choose life. So here's the 10 things. You ready? These are 10. I mean, Forbes is a pretty, go for a run or a light jog. Meditate. Now, see, this is the one. Number 2, meditate or deep breathe for 5 minutes. What happened in our days if we just did that every day? If we just did 1 and 2. Here's the hard one. Ladies, I'm talking to you. Pay attention. All ladies, please pay attention. All ladies to the front. All ladies to the front. Take a break when you need it. Oh my gosh. Somebody test this out in the chat. Let me look. Choose who, attention all human souls, attention all human souls. Number 4, please choose who you spend time with. What if that meant even in our own mind, choose who you spend time with? How many of us spend time with that pain in the ass of us who goes, what are you doing? You said you were going to go for a walk yesterday, and we talk about today how we should have done what we should have done yesterday. Laugh heartily at least once a day. I'm going to get you all to smile. I don't care what. Changes our whole thing, right? Big breathing. Eat green daily. I'm not sure what green is, but I think they're talking about the color vegetable. I'd hate to be Mr. Green. Avoid emotional eating. Could we have control? Could we take number 7 out, please? Please, can we take number 7 out? Start a journal. Oh my goodness. Look, uh-oh. I'm gonna let somebody else read number 9. Learn to say no. Every human being, could you please read number 10? Every human being, please read number 10. Stop overthinking. Now, if this is what Forbes put out, if this is what they want their readers, think of the avatar of Forbes. Just think about the avatar. What would be the person who subscribes to Forbes, who trusts them as a resource? These are averagely intelligent, highly intelligent, averagely successful, highly successful. These are people who are commanding and demanding more from themselves. These are people who are trying to reach more in life. Isn't that crazy? Become aware of your positive and negative self-care habits. How many of us, so my brother, when we figured out everybody's an alcoholic as opposed to that's the way you were raised, right? There's a word that they used, codependency. I didn't know what a codependent was. And then they, I want to say Al-Anon. Avalon was a car. Al-Anon, you should go to Al-Anon for support. Well, you got to become aware of your positive, and if you didn't know that doing what you do is negative self-care, how would you know? And then we get into comparison. Well, I'm told not to compare. Become the observer. All of you are world class. Listen, all of you are world class. I'm speaking to your subconscious. Oh yeah, but I'm not as good as Kathy. I don't want to be as good as Kathy. I want to be me. I got Kathy in my phone. That's why I have Kathy. I don't want to be Elaine 30 years of doing what she does and the challenges. I want to have her in my phone. I love horses, but I don't want to have to get kicked by one or try to wrangle one in the rain. You get me? Become the observer. We watch everybody else, but yet we're on our own fishbowl. When are we going to step out of the fishbowl and look at our own life and go, what the hell was I thinking? How many of us look back at high school pictures and go, when was that cool? When was that hair cool? It was cool then. But as the observer now, you look different, don't you? Ask a trusted friend for feedback. Say that 5 times fast. Ask a trusted friend. Hey, listen, I got to get better at me. What are some of the things that I do that you like? And is there anything I do you don't like? And then wait for them to stop laughing and then listen to what they say. Become the world-class mentor you've paid thousands and thousands of dollars to guide you to the next step. You know, something hit me yesterday in meditation. Every training that we ever buy is to help us to get better, and it does. Every seminar we attend is designed to help us get better, and it does. Why don't we follow through? Is because every seminar and every training, and this is, I throw myself right into that bucket up until yesterday. Everybody teaches you what they believe could help you. What very few people, unless you're sitting on a couch at $200 an hour, is teaching you how to receive the information based upon how you hear. Based upon your current psychological blueprint. We can all change, but in order for it to unlock the code that's called you right now, there has to be an understanding of your psychological blueprint, because everything keeps pouncing in there and keeps banging against who we are until some moment we hear the same thing and all of a sudden it clicks. That's why we have to constantly be hearing new stuff, hearing the same thing over and over. What would 10 things be you could do better for your self-care? And it doesn't have to be, attention, it does not have to be limited to 10. Blue light special, aisle 5. What are 10 self-care things you could do to improve on? One of mine, as funny as it sounds, was always to get up. For years, I would say, I'm going to get up at 5 o'clock. How many of those years do you think I got up on my own at 5 o'clock? Part of my self-care was being held accountable to y'all. So that's a big list for me. Then we go through these, right? The fear of actually taking care of us. Because here's the challenge. As soon as you start self-caring for you, in this great book, How to Live 24 Hours, how to live 24 hours in a day. From 1800, the book is written. What would be the fear of actually taking care of yourself? Who would get disappointed if you started taking care of yourself? Well, no one. I'll bet you $1. I could name 3 people. Seriously, if you started taking care of you, what would change? Now, so how do you get on this journey? You tell some of your close friends, listen, I'm going on a self-care walkabout. I'm not leaving, but I'm going on a self-care walkabout. I'm going to be doing some things to take care of me. Can I ask for your help? Yeah, what do you need? If you see me doing something where I'm not taking care of myself, could you remind me? That's different than if I tell Mason, put the candy down. Because now I just fed that child in him, that person in him who says, I'm not good enough, I'm not this. Mace, listen, you remember you asked me the other day, you wanted to eat healthier? All I'm asking you, brother, is that, would that fit into that criteria, your criteria of eating healthy? No. And he still gets frustrated, but now it's not me. Remember, Mace, you asked me for your help. All I'm reminding you is that fit into your self-care diet? No, and he puts it down. But imagine the addict inside of us all that is who we are today. Imagine the person you are today. Imagine if you were the same person 5 years ago. How many of you believe you'd be where you are right now if you were that person 5 years ago? Hell, 5 months ago. And then the sadness is, shit, I could have been doing this all along. Why did I wait? What was I thinking? And we start going into that abusive conversation. I'll go back to Lynn Grabhorn's book, Excuse Me, Your Life is Waiting. If you're going to open up that valve of BS, open the damn thing up, get through it, and then get out of the hole. And then excited, oh my God, I can take care of myself without being a witch on a broomstick. Isn't that the funny thing? I mean, if we start taking care of ourselves, women, listen, ladies, Linda, listen, ladies, listen. I'm going to make a very egotistical statement. Y'all can be mean. Y'all have this unique self-care, self-preservation button that, boy, when that thing gets flipped on, woo! It's what I've experienced. What's your discipline? Speaking a new language of self-care, monitoring, measuring your experience, right? Forbes said, start a journal. Awareness of your increased care. What would happen? What would happen if, again, principle of Kaizen, listen to this. Principle of Kaizen says, Japanese principle, 1/10 of 1% improvement every day. Not even a full percent. That would take 10 days to get to 1%. But how many of you in 30 days would like a 3% raise? There's people who fight for in their jobs. I don't know, Kathy could help us on this, but I know that sometimes when I hear my bride talk about she helped her offshore team get a raise and it was 10%, that's like wildly pushing the envelope of raise increases for their same title. Not that they jumped up and they went into a new bracket. 10% raise is like, wow. Imagine if you had a 3% raise in 30 days. That means a 6% raise in 2 months. That means a 9% raise in 3 months. Do you get this? 1%, but you won't know if you're moving forward. This isn't a 2 steps forward, 1 step back kind of deal. So there is self-care. We kept it as light as we could. We had a giggle, but this is really a tough one. This is one that, I argued with in meditation this morning going, yeah, but we talked about deprive yesterday. I took him on the roller coaster. When do we get back up on top of that roller coaster? Well, we had Margie get us back up on top of the roller coaster. She held up her book. I had so much fun talking to everybody about being deprived. It's like, what? You're not normal. You're Abby normal. You're a misfit. All right, there you go. Feedback, jump in, conversations. I ain't talking about this.
Well, with myself, Sean, I've been on this journey since I started with the Daily Awakenings, and there was things that have happened in my life that have triggered some pretty heavy duty emotions for me and made me take a stop in it. And I'm, you know what, I know it sounds kind of crazy. I'm kind of thankful it happened because it gave me an opportunity to start diving deeply within me to see what it is that, you know, and what I'm realizing that, hey, I'm not that bad, you know what I mean? I'm pretty amazing. And and like you say, there's a lot of greatness on the inside of us. So with myself, like the journaling, I'm doing this like 21-day brain detox, like with Dr. Caroline Leaf. I'm going through my second round of it. It's just, and I'm reading more, and I'm still doing my business. I'm still very productive that way. I'm rising early, so it's just these things that the self-care is so vitally important, because hey, if we don't take care of ourselves, who the heck is gonna? And they can't, because they don't know you, they don't know me, right? So I've been finding that this journey has been just amazing, that it's been tough. I'm not going to say it's been easy, but my goodness, has it ever it just blows my mind what I've been learning, what I've been seeing in my journey, and how peaceful it is too, even in the midst of all the turmoil, that there is such peace that we have, that I can have. And I'm very disciplined now at what thoughts are coming in and what's going out, trying to be. Like, I'm not saying I'm an expert at that, but my goodness, when we capture those thoughts that come in that say that you aren't worthy or you aren't, it's like, I'm not receiving that. This is who I am. So when we replace that, it's just so, and let that healthy thought grow. My goodness, does it ever just push out that other stuff? It's so awesome. And I just want to thank you, because you doing what you're doing here, and Kathy and Emily, everyone, and Leslie, we're all contributing to this. Elaine, Karen, we're all contributing, and it's like we're changing our lives because of this. And we're so thankful for that. I'm very thankful for that.
So a picture that came through when you were talking was, we've all seen the pictures of the hurricanes. Not sure if anybody's lived through them. I've lived through 9 of them. So yeah, Margie in Florida, of course. In the center of a hurricane is the what?
It's the eye.
And in the eye, it's the most calm, right?
Yes.
How many of us, what would happen if we just walked in the eye of the hurricane?
Yeah.
We'd never be in trouble, would we?
Mm-hmm.
We'd
That's
have to
true.
keep walking in the eye, but here's the challenge. We would walk in, every time we would take the next step, we would see more destruction that was there,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is our life. And then it would come through us and then keep on going. But
Mm-hmm.
at some point, the hurricane's going to wear itself out. Can we
Right.
stay in the eye long enough
Mm-hmm.
without getting tossed into all of that other stuff?
Yeah.
Thank you, Linda, for sharing.
I believe we can. Yeah.
I think what you're talking about there is a centering. And I like the fact that it's the eye of the storm, because it just speaks to the fact that you're centered. So, we have to have that sense of being firmly planted. And when we're firmly planted, the winds can buffet you, but they don't knock you over, right? Because you're firmly planted. But there were a couple of things that came up that I just, random thoughts as you were talking. One is that I would encourage, well, first let me say this about Forbes, because I've been on Forbes Coaches Council now. I'm in my 3rd year with them. And I think
It's surprising, isn't it, folks? Isn't that shocking?
I think one of the reasons Forbes is so committed to this is because their audience craves this. I think it's an important thing to remember that anybody in the media, they're taking their cues from their audience. So they're constantly being overwhelmed with people saying, help me with this, help me with this, help me with this. Professionals, achievers all know they need help with this. So never think for a minute that they do this because they know ahead of you what you need. They're responding to you. They're responding to you. And it's, to me, the community is it's a big part of my own professional world, but it's also a big part of my personal world, because it's a resource for me as a coach, all the other coaches. It's like this is a place that we come. We all need a place that we go to. And usually we need more than one place, because there's different people that understand different elements of our life. But the other thing that came to mind is when you're looking at self-care and you're trying to decide what do you want to change, this is where I wouldn't overthink this a lot. I would just pick a place in your life that where do you struggle the most with negative self-doubt and thoughts? Because that's probably the area where you're not using good self-care. So like the thing, what behaviors do you repeat that make you feel bad about yourself? Because there's probably some element of self-care in there. But the other thing, when we're talking about a journal, here's what I would challenge you to, and what I use. Sometimes the journal is, I journal, of course, every day, but sometimes a log is more important than a journal. Because sometimes we trick ourselves out of the truth. We make our own version of the truth, right? And we like to rewrite history by saying, this is what I did today, based on what we want the truth to have been today versus what the real truth was. So like, let's say that you want to introduce some better self-care around your eating patterns. So we're talking about emotional eating. Well, first you got to know what you're doing now. Before you can figure out the right plan to go from where you are to where you want to be, you got to know where you are. And in many cases, we don't actually know. We think we know, but we don't really know. And sometimes that log, like, my trainer, my physical therapist, I have to keep a log every day, every single thing I eat. I have to write down all the water that I drink. I have a Fitbit that measures every time I move. And we look at those numbers and we say, okay, you might have thought that you were really hydrating last week, but look, you weren't. And then it's like this mirror that gets held up, but it's our mirror. It's like Sean was saying, we hold it up for our evaluation, and that's how we keep the judgment out. But then the other thing I just wanted, and I'll just wrap up with this on my thoughts, is that I think that we have greater influence in the lives of others by what they see us do versus what we do for them. I look at my daughter, I look at my granddaughters, I look at all of the women in my corporate life that I've mentored over the years. What gives me authenticity in what I say to them is that it matches what I do for me. If I tell my daughter that she needs to get rest, but I never get rest, do you think she hears me? If I tell my granddaughter that she needs to have a strong sense of self-worth and understand that she's responsible for her body, but I don't take care of mine, do you think I have any credibility to influence her? It starts with us. Our influence in the world starts with our influence over ourselves. That's why personal leadership is the first form of leadership. But anyway, those were my thoughts that came through. And then the other thing is that for me, when I'm helping others at my own expense, it means it's usually not for them. It's avoidance for me. It's a way for me to feel better about something I'm doing I know I shouldn't be doing. And that's avoiding, it's the resistance, right? It's that resistance. I'm hiding behind the cloak of service, knowing full well that I'm using it as an excuse. So those are my morning thoughts.
Boom. So that last part I think is so critical in watching Kyle Cease in his most recent Evolving Out Loud, that's online, you can get it. Whenever he was going through this process, and whenever I start going through this process with clients, and we're talking about, and we're getting down, we're starting to dig down deep into that little cavern of joy that's been hidden for so long, something always comes up. Did you all hear when Kathy was talking, as she started talking about her personal self, we all wind up having to clear our throat. I don't know that she's ever had to clear her throat before. These little things that come up, when we start to look at these things, they're distractions. When we're having this, we're really diving into our journaling and this, that, and the other, and we're like, oh, I got to go do that. That is so critical. I hope we gather that little tidbit of that. In service of others, we distract ourselves from service of self. That's huge. Be aware, just be cognizant, be the observer today as you go off and do things for others. Were you about to have a breakthrough for yourself? Were you about to have an awakening for yourself? It is so easy to be in service of others and sacrifice of self. That's what service is supposed to be, right? When might you, what if you could get paid $1,000 every time you took care of you? What would happen if you decided to take care of you and every one of your goals, you got paid $1,000 when you fulfilled it? You drank water. I'm supposed to drink water 8 times a day. Imagine if you got paid $8,000 to drink water. Now, it's not about the money, but how much of what we do, we would do more for others if we had more money. Right? We happen to live in a time and space in the world and in this universe at this moment where man needs money to exchange for service. Maybe at some future point, we'll exchange love and we'll all be free and all of that. Who knows? What else is popping up for anybody on this whole idea of self-care?
There was one, there was one thing that came up on, I don't know if any of you ever follow Lisa Nichols at all, but she just recently did a feed where she says that one of the reasons why a lot of people won't become who they want is because they're too attached to who they've been. And I think that blocks a lot of us when it comes to this topic of self-care, because it requires real change.
Overcoming that addiction to approval, who we are, right? So 200,000 high professional salespeople were surveyed, and they asked them 7 questions. Have you ever not eaten alone on a travel trip because you're afraid of what people might think of you? Have you ever not asked somebody out on a date because you were afraid? Have you ever wore clothes specific to a party because you wanted to fit in? Have you? And these 7 questions, 99.9% of us all say yes to. And usually it's all 7 of them. And that goes back to what Kathy was just saying. We can't get out of who we are because we're going to upset somebody. We're addicted to how they will feel. That's all bullshit. I don't care how other people feel. Really? 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 Then why did you show up here in clothes? Really? Really? How come you were all sitting in the same spot we sat in yesterday? Really? Well, that's where my computer is. Baloney! Your house was on fire. Would you still be sitting there? Well, yeah, but yeah. It's funny when we really start to dive in and we have a dialogue, not a monologue, right? Emerson, I think Emerson said the problem with most people in a dialogue is they think they have one.
Here we go, you guys. You've all entered into my wheelhouse because I am all about self-care. Yeah, I've been studying that for, I don't know, since I was in my early 40s, started with reading Suzanne Somers' book because I kind of wanted to know what was coming for us women, because I didn't really understand the whole change thing. So that's kind of where my journey began into this. And it astounds me how many of us completely self-sabotage our health all the time by just being, I could go into, Darren Hardy did this video for, I don't know, I think it was for Remax, it was a bunch of years ago, and he went into the compound effect. And for people that are trying to lose weight, he used this analogy that it's another one of those smack you upside the head things, Sean, that you like so well. But he basically was saying, so pick your comfort food, the thing that, you know, you just go to when things are bad, whether it be ice cream or hamburgers or whatever. I'll use, for us in California, a lot of people go to In-N-Out. That's the go-to place. So he said, so what would you do if you were, you know, you sat in a drive-through line that's always out and down the block because people are so crazy about that place, you know, and you got your double and you were going to take that first bite of it. But what if you knew without a doubt that as soon as you took that first bite, you instantaneously gained 25 pounds? Would you do it? Because what happens to us is we are so addicted to instant gratification versus long-term what this stuff is doing to us. You know, we want it. It's going to make us feel good for the moment, so we go for it. That's our society. That's what we've been, I don't know, I guess allowed to do. But the long-term effect on everything that we've ever put in our mouths or, you know, done physically is compounding, and it's taken a toll. And yet we blindly go forth and continue. It's crazy to me. It just blows me away. And then when you start thinking about where I am now, which is I'm attacking my emotional and my long-term built up garbage over the years, it's a journey. And you guys, you have no idea what I've experienced and what I've tried, because I try everything. So you need something, I can give you all kinds of tips and tools and of the trade, because there's not much that I haven't tried. Not always for everybody, but there's all kinds of stuff that I can help with. So yeah, Darren Hardy, you guys should try to find that. It's on YouTube, you can find it, but it's a really eye-opening video. So there you go. That's what I got for y'all.
Thank you, Leslie.
That speaks to the idea of freedom of choice does not mean freedom from consequence, right? That there is a consequence to every choice. And sometimes the consequence is character building, it's life building, it's joy building, it's energy building. Sometimes the consequence is not. So I think that that's a valid point, is that we always think of this as the big stuff, or we tend to think about what are the major things we're doing for ourselves. And it really is about the minutia. It's really about those things, those little things we do or don't do every single day. And that's why ritual is such an important thing for me, is saying I'm committed to this every day. My word for the year is daily, because this is where I fail. Because I always let something else be more important, not even just about self-care, but I always say, well, this is more important than this. And there's always a judgment, instead of saying, this is my commitment. And I don't get to redecide every day what my commitment is. This is my commitment. And, Brian Tracy says that discipline is do what you resolve to do. It's that simple. So if you said, I'm going to do this, then just do that. That's what discipline is. That's what self-discipline is. Do what you resolve to do. And that helped me tremendously, for me personally, to just say, if I said I would do this every day, then I need to do that every day. And if I'm not going to do it every day, I need to quit saying I'm going to do it every day, because that's just a negative loop that I keep feeling defeated and bad about myself. But I like what you're saying, because I do think we ignore the fact, we think all these, so what does Jim Rohn say? He says success is just a few good decisions that you make every day. Failure is just a few bad decisions that you make every day. I mean, it's just the difference. It's the cumulative effect. That's a great book that he wrote, by the way, also, The Compound Effect.
So again, it comes back to there's, and to add on to that conversation, discipline is the ability to do something long after the emotion of making the decision fades away. I'm so excited. I'm going to be a grand poobah in my network marketing company. You got to talk to people. Wasn't just saying it enough? This is powerful. Self-care is critical. And again, Kathy says that articles are written based upon what people are looking for. They're not educational. That's what you go to university for, to learn stuff. They're not wanting to teach you stuff. They're wanting to find out where are eyeballs looking and how do we go get them? That's business, right? Where are eyeballs looking, how do we go get them? So think about what it is that you do. I think about what I do. And I've had some not remake the mousetrap, but new syntax of how the mousetrap could work better in my profession, in what I do. So today, it's critical self-care. I don't know why it popped into my head, but if it pops in, it comes out, right? I don't have that strong filter. Think about cats, think about animals, right? There's an old story about people, who knows the dog Uga, right? In Atlanta, the Bulldogs, the Georgia Bulldogs, the college team. Two guys are sitting up in the stand and they're watching, and they zoom in on Uga. He's at the 50-yard line right there in the center. They're starting a game, and Uga starts licking himself. And one guy looks at the other, he goes, "Man, I wish I could do that." And the other guy looks at him, go, "That dog would bite you." This whole idea of self-care, we sometimes have a conversation and we go, well, I got to do that. We got to do one more thing before we can get it. This is why we go back to what we talked about the other day, and Kathy talked about it. It's about changing the little things. She even mentioned it again today. It's changing the little things. How many of you this morning, or if you haven't taken a shower yet, how many of you dried yourself off differently than you did yesterday? It's in those little things. How many of you will drink your coffee with your opposite hand? It's just, there's this moment where we say the body is going to habitualize. I'm going to control my body. And you just do something different. It's the little things. And the body starts to go, oh, wait a minute. We're doing a whole bunch of new stuff. So new is okay. And what if it's almost ludicrous that self-care would be a new idea? Self-care in a positive way would be a new idea. How is that even possible? Because it's how we've set ourselves up. Anyone else as we wrap this up? Okay. You self-care demons and queens and, hey, Tracy, there's Pigtails. Yay. She's got her shirt on normal. So there you go. Think about this. Let it just sit in your soul for a little bit. This idea of self-care, what life would be like, what joy would be like, what more. Just, again, principle of Kaizen. I can promise you this, you deserve it. I can request this of you. I need you. The world needs you at a higher level. If we're going to make the world a better place for our families, go back to what Kathy said. It's all got to start with us. I love you tons. Thanks for being here, you misfits. I'll see you all where? At the next event. Till then, love you tons. Bye for now.